Hello everyone, this is Jamie here. Welcome to another session of Vista Export Services. In this session, I'll quickly take you through the amazing process of managing efficiently heavy 3ds Max files with high resolution textures using a plugin called Proxy Textures. This 3D scene was created for a client a while back. It was a nightmare to manage and navigate through, mainly because of the number of high resolution textures in this massive scene. The current camera is focusing on the T-point area. However, there are a number of different cameras covering other areas of the massive 3D scene. Let's quickly go through some of its main cameras. The scene currently has hundreds of textures and 180 of them are extremely big in size. Back to our main T-point camera. To quickly show how difficult it currently is to navigate through the scene, we are going to enable the 2D pan zoom mode and use the mouse scroll wheel to navigate through the scene. As you can see, with every scroll it takes a while for the viewport to update. The Windows Task Manager also depicts how much memory the scene is consuming. To quickly download the Proxy Textures plugin, let's go to Google and type in Proxy Textures Spline Dynamics and click on its main page. This is their website depicting its main features. Under more information, we have the script manual link we can click to check. Back on the main page, you can choose to download the trial version or the full product. Once downloaded, back in 3ds Max, click on the scripting main toolbar and choose to run scripts, followed by choosing and opening the script. To create a button toolbar like these ones here, simply watch some of my previous tutorials. To quickly go through some of its main parameters. In this group, by default, you have the option to affect textures on selected objects enabled. This option only proxies the selected objects with the textures in the scene. For the purpose of this exercise, we're going to enable all scene options instead. This option will proxy all textures in the scene. The reduce textures group allows users to set the minimum and maximum size the textures will be reduced to. It's set to max size by default. Users can set the maximum sizes such as 512 pixels, 1000 pixels, 2000 pixels, 4000 pixels, or simply type in a specific value here. Alternatively, textures can be reduced by percentage instead. We have set sizes of 10%, 25%, 50% and 75%, or simply type in a specific percentage value here. The minimum size is set to 32 pixels. This is the minimum size the texture will be reduced to. The power of 2. When enabled, it uses specific sets of pixel sizes, mostly used in video games for best performance and compatibility. The power of 2 pixel sizes are 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024 and 2048. So if a specific texture in the scene is 3000 pixels in width, the nearest power of 2 value of 3000 should be 2048 pixels in width. The next power of 2 value should be 1024 pixels and so on. If the height value of the same texture in the scene was 1500 pixels, the nearest power of 2 value to reduce to would have been 1024 pixels. So the new resize value of 3000 by 1500 pixels would have ended up being 2048 pixels by 1024 when using the power of 2 option to reduce its original size. In a nutshell, when using the power of 2 option to reduce textures, this plugin will automatically use any of the closest preset values mentioned earlier, independent from one another, to resize a specific texture. The Convert to JPEG PNG Alpha option automatically converts textures in the scene into a JPEG file format, and textures with alpha channel are automatically converted into a PNG file type. The JPEG quality sets the quality of the texture. The value of 100 is the maximum quality. The default value is set to 70. The Process Textures button initiates the process of reducing texture sizes in the scene. Once this button is clicked, the Save and Reload scene allows users to save and reopen the 3ds Max scene once this button is clicked. In the Proxy Textures group, it's set to scene bound by default. What it means is that once the Process Textures button is clicked, the new resized textures will be automatically saved in a location where this 3D scene was opened from. For the purpose of this exercise, we're going to choose the global option instead and click on this toggle to set its location. Here's a new folder created to automatically save the new resized textures into. Alternatively, users can simply click on this toggle to create a new folder. This button is enabled by default to use originals on render. Essentially, every time you click to render, this plugin will automatically switch back to your original high resolution textures before resizing them. Next, let's open the Material Editor dialog and go inside one of the high resolution textures. Here is the file name of the high resolution texture. Here, you can see the texture size being 8000 by 3113 pixels, which is massive. Next, let's click to Process Textures to begin reducing the textures with all the previous options set. Click Yes to Process Textures. While the texture processing is taking place, you'll see file names and textures being switched. As you can see in the message dialog, 182 extremely high resolution textures will reduce to the sizes set earlier. Click OK. As mentioned earlier, the location, file name and sizes of 180 high resolution textures will automatically change. Here is the new location of the renamed and resized textures. This specific texture went from 8000 pixels to 1024 pixels, as you can see here. The 3D scene is also extremely lighter, and the Windows taskbar is using less memory to handle the scene. It's also a lot easier to navigate through the scene. With smaller textures loaded, draft images will be a lot quicker to process and render if you deselect the button to use originals on render. vray no longer needs to load and process high resolution textures before rendering. Before sending the final file to render, we only need to restore high resolution textures of the objects closer to the camera and leave the low resolution textures on the objects far away from the camera. To do this, let's start by selecting all objects in the scene that are close to our camera. Hold down the Control key on your keyboard and begin selecting them one by one. Open the Material Editor again to see file names being restored. Next, under the Tools parameters, enable the Selected Objects option and click the button to restore original textures. Click Yes to restore textures. As you can see here, the textures on selected objects have been restored to the original file names without the previous suffix names pt resized. Finally, before sending the final render, simply unclick the button to use originals on render. This will ensure the objects in the distance will not automatically use the original high resolution textures when rendering. Instead, only the textures currently loaded in the scene will be used for rendering. In summary, now we have a mixture of high and low resolution textures in the scene, high resolution textures for the close-up objects and low resolution textures for objects in the distance. The final render looks something similar to this, with a bit of post-production. I really hope you found this tutorial helpful, like and share it. And I hope to see you on my next one.